Hey everybody, I'm Catherine Sprung and I'm going to be making quick coffee cake, but there is a backstory to this. So recently I took a trip to the Intrepid Sea, Air and Space Museum in New York City, and they have a special exhibit there right now called Navy Cakes. Now this is all of the baked goods that their sailors would make from about the mid-40s to the mid-70s. They're very accessible items like this one, coffee cake, which is a bit nostalgic for me as well. So I wanted to kind of pay homage to that and recreate these recipes, maintaining the integrity of the original recipes, of course, but making them more accessible and scaled down. So instead of the original recipe, which is two 18 by 26 pans, which I'm up for the challenge, but this is scaled down to an 8 by 8. So that is perfect to indulge over a slice or two here or there, or with somebody. So that's what we're going to be making today, this Intrepid Navy Cakes inspired quick coffee cake. So let's jump in. The ingredients are very also accessible. There's only one portion of this recipe that was not listed on the ingredients. Throughout the little exhibit, they do share the recipe cards there, so you're able to see the recipe, and the steps are very basic as well. They do not, of course, have all of the cards. So for this, the crumb topping on the coffee cake is a streusel topping, and it references to look for another card that was not there. So streusel is one of those things that you can find the recipe for that anywhere. It is super, super easy, super adaptable anyway. So I have one that I've prepared, and again, you can find the recipe of your choice for this, but here I have 2/3 cup of light brown sugar, and it's kind of lightly packed in there, but again, you can really, teeter with that. This is very forgiving. We've also got about 120 grams of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of ground cinnamon. We have a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then there's a 1/2 cup of unsalted butter. And with this, you just put everything into the bowl. And I use a pastry blender to kind of, incorporate all of those ingredients so that you get something like this, the finished product, which is nice and crumbly, but of course you can use a fork as well to do that, or even your hands if you don't mind a little bit of mess. So we have that prepared, and we can just go ahead and set that aside. This is going to be our crumb topping, but you'll want to have that prepared in advance just so that you have a nice seamless process afterwards. Then in my mixing bowl, I have here, again, if you've seen some of the other videos, I am a fan of a scale just to get those really nice precise measurements. So we've got here 72 to 73 grams, let's say 73 grams of shortening. So this recipe could in fact be made dairy-free if you want. It does call for milk, but you can equally swap that out for something else since this is a vegetable shortening. So we've got that. Let's go ahead and get that locked into place with our mixing bowl. We're going to cream together that and our sugar. So I have 186 grams of sugar here. So we'll just go ahead, pour that in, and lock this into place. And with our paddle attachment, we'll just get that all incorporated and cream together until it becomes light and fluffy, as they say. This can take a couple of minutes, so we'll speed up the process, and you can scrape down the bowl in the middle of that. It might not seem like it's all coming together, but then just like that with magic, it will. So be patient and let it blend in for at least 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, so as you can see, this is the light and fluffy we're looking for. So it does take a few minutes, so you just want to be patient with it. But I did scrape down the sides just once in between, but it's beautiful. It's light and fluffy. So now we're going to add in our eggs. I have 3 room temperature eggs here, and we'll just get those added in one at a time. All right, so we've got all of those ingredients incorporated. We're ready for our dry ingredients. I've got another mixing bowl here just to sift everything together whenever I'm adding dry ingredients into a mixing bowl. If my bowl is too big and that mouth is too big, all of the ingredients go everywhere. So I feel like this gives us more control. So we're using this one just to sift our ingredients. I have here 172 grams of all-purpose flour. I also have in here 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of nutmeg and 1 teaspoon of salt. So I have that in here just going in. We're gonna sift that. We're also going to sift, I have 59 grams of cake flour. So that's gonna go in too. If you do not have cake flour, which you don't need to because it's so easy to hack, all you do is you take 1 cup of all-purpose flour, but I would also recommend scaling that out so you get more precise measurements there. Removing 2 tablespoons of that and then substituting in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. So you never really need to go out and buy cake flour unless that's primarily what you're dealing with and it's just so much easier. But if you never really have to use it, that's an easy hack to do. I would also recommend taking that and sifting that a couple of times first, just so that it's super light and fluffy, and then we're gonna sift all of those together here. Okay, once we have all that sifted, we're ready to start to introduce that into these ingredients. And then we're also going to work in small little stages. We have some milk. I have 39 grams of milk that we will kind of alternate in together. All right, we have our batter here that is ready to go. So I have prepared an 8x8 baking pan lined with parchment paper. My favorite. If you don't have parchment paper, you can really grease it, but this just makes it 1,000 times easier. So we've got that, and we'll just go ahead and get all of that added in. All right, so we've got everything nice and spread out into our pan here. Here comes the fun part. We're gonna sprinkle it with our streusel, and there is no number here. You can just, I mean, honestly, this stuff is delicious, so you can really go heavy-handed on it, which we will. You can use a little. This is your creative moment. Personally, I'm gonna go heavy-handed here and really give it a lot of love. All right, so we have our streusel topping on there looking beautiful, and I have the oven preheated to 375 degrees Fahrenheit, that is. And this is going to go in for about 25 minutes. Of course, you know your oven best. So if you want to start a little lower and give it a check with a toothpick, make sure that it comes out clean, but about 25 minutes is where we're at. So this is gonna go pop in and then we'll see how it did. All right, our coffee cake, our quick coffee cake is out of the oven, smells incredible. So this is the great part about the parchment paper here, is that we can easily get this out and cut into it by just kind of holding onto our little corners here and just pulling it out just like that. Perfectly. We can get rid of this pan here. It has done its job. And no better thing to do than just cut right into it. And the funny thing about coffee cake, a lot of people think like, oh wait, where's the coffee? So there's no coffee actually used to make the cake itself. It was kind of this nice, delicious treat that was meant to accompany a cup of coffee, hence coffee cake. The original version of this was even more bread-like, but I think over time and generations, it's evolved into something more like this, which is more cake-like. But needless to say, a little bit of coffee cake history for you there. So let's just cut right into this. So you can see how beautiful that streusel has browned up on the top, how fluffy it is on the inside. It's not too sweet, it's nice and mild. It really is the perfect accompaniment for a cup of tea or for coffee or just on its own. So this was the quick coffee cake inspired from the Intrepid's Navy Cake series. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you make this easy recipe at home, I hope you enjoy that, and I'll catch you guys next time.